just a few words about Professor Nino Dazzi. Ragazzi, silenzio. He's the former dean of the Faculty of Psychology of Sapienza University of Rome and one of the vice heads of Sapienza. He's a very good friend. He has helped us since the beginning in developing this group and spreading control mastery theory in Italy. And if you want to have just one sentence about him, I like to say that he is one step below God. He's going to talk about attachment, infant research, and control mastery theory. Thank you.
Grazie. The title of this presentation is problematic. I won't have the time to speak about everything, so I'm starting with some preliminary observations. Why did we try to introduce this talk about dialogue between attachment theory and control mastery theory? Is it because of a need of integration, or is it rather what I could say better, a compatibility between models, compatibility between models? Overlapping doesn't suit me because overlapping rarely does a good job, because the same concepts may have different nuances that don't fit really with the overlapping. I'm trying to tell you why we try to do this. We try to do this because I was impressed by something historically happened. In Italy, this theory, CMT, was introduced by the cognitive colleagues, not by psychoanalysts. Psychoanalysts never showed any interest about CMT. Maybe now there's a feeble interest, not more than that. And in fact, Joe Weiss was invited here in Rome by our cognitive colleagues. And why did this happen? Probably I'm simplifying everything, of course, because there was this word, belief, pathogenic beliefs. The cognitive people have to do with beliefs, and pathogenic beliefs, that's a good stimulus for getting this theory more known, more approached, and they started to do this. Another influence was the influence of my former friend that prematurely died, Liotti, that tried to introduce this CMT theory to the psychoanalytic world. I don't think he was too much successful, but at least he tried and published an article with another guy, colleague, Migone, in the International Journal of Psychoanalysis. So that's really the official review, official journal. Excuse me. The title of his contribution was the following: Psychoanalysis and Cognitive Evolutionary Psychology. Psychoanalysis and Cognitive Evolutionary Psychology. When you say evolutionary psychology, that's something not exactly cognitive, not only, not exclusively cognitive.
No.
So I just quote a little piece so you have an idea what he was attempting to do. He said, I was pinpointing ideas as they have been stated in the literature on evolutionary epistemology, ethology, neurobiology, and cognitive developmental psychology in relation to one of the approaches supported by empirical research. Empirical research. This is the important point. And why did he choose CMT? Empirical research. Today available in contemporary psychology, namely CMT, our consideration do not stand or fall on the theory and could be applied to many other approaches within contemporary psychoanalysis. I don't think so, but anyway. The reason that we have selected this theory is because it seemed to us a useful tool, among others, to integrate psychoanalytic thinking and contemporary cognitive evolutionary thinking. So that's both things. Is forcing the evolutionary dimension in cognitive psychology, and on the other side forces a sort of integration, a possible integration, emphasizing what? That he is comparing something like the CMT and has empirical research support. And yes, the emphasis on the role of childhood experiences in the product of pathogenic beliefs may imply that only external real experiences are responsible for pathogenic beliefs. This emphasis could be a natural consequence of a new view of motivation. This is a key word, motivation. He was very keen about motivation, and he introduced the whole theory of motivation. And what our colleague before showed us was a list of motivation, of possible motivations. And this is another thing that wasn't so obvious in psychoanalysis before Lichtenberg tried to propose a list of motivations, but not in classical psychoanalysis. So we were inspired by this, and also by reading a paper of George Silberschatz that was characterizing CMT as dynamic, cognitive, and relational. So I think we didn't see it like this before, and this forced us to see if we could try to compare the attachment model with the CMT. Compare. I don't think integration is a good word. Compare is a better word, because we have to see if there is compatibility. Recently, maybe you don't know, I don't want to bother you about this difficult problematic of integration. Nobody really accomplished any theoretical integration between models. That's almost impossible, really. And there is a good article recently by Marvin Goldfried that's asking himself a couple of questions. Why are we constantly disagreeing? Why aren't we getting to a common, well, at least a common platform or something like this? So the issue is alive again. And why attachment? I'm just representing attachment that has been presented now in a very recent article as a very scientific dimension. Attachment has a prominent position as a theory of child mental health and well-being, with implications for lifespan and development. One of the strengths of the theory is the intervening of evolutionary, biological, and psychological constructs to give an integrated model of the development and maintenance of relational bonds between the child and the primary caregiver. Yes, this is one point, and it's important, but a good deal of research demonstrates that infants with insecure or disorganized attachments are at heightened risk for psychopathology relatively to security attached organized infants. Constant with recent research, this is important, in large samples, there was little evidence that specific genes are associated with attachment security, disorganization, or distress as main effects. This means that you have to revert to psychological constructs. I mean, the issue is very complicated and it's enlarging itself ever more, but we aren't able still now, at the present moment, to gain something really consistent as regards gene research and genetic research. There is an issue of epigenetic, there is an issue of genetic and environment, and that's a very complicated issue. That means that we are not going only to take this road, but we should stick also to the psychological road. What aspects of the theory of attachment we concentrated on? Emotional, cognitive, and behavioral processes involved in the formation and maintenance of affectional bonds. Okay. So this said, our recent article, I never remember exactly, Francesco maybe can help me when we publish it, reads, we think that CMT could be useful for integrating attachment, psychodynamic and cognitive evolutionary thinking. Such an integrated model is based on the centrality of adaptation, sense of safety, and real experiences, as Liotti was saying, the mediating role of inner representational beliefs based on these experiences, and the necessity to modify this relational knowledge in order to help patients get better. This was the abstract. The abstract is too ambitious. Today, I don't believe it was sustainable. So, yes, auto-criticizing myself. I'm suffering of saying, pulling my leg and telling me every time that I'm representing an Odyssey, self-hate. Let's see what we tried to do. I'm really, excuse me if I'm going to read because I don't think you can see very clearly what's appearing here. A good enough psychodynamic theory of psychological functioning, development, and of how psychotherapy works, this is going back to the famous book by Joe, How Therapy Works, should take into account recent scientific data, this was his main point, about emotional, motivational, and cognitive functioning developed by neuroscience. Just to quote Pansep and Byron, this is a good book, but Byron is too psychoanalytic oriented to make the book better. More of psychology, this one appeals to Francesco, and social cognition. Social cognition here referring to a book that you probably know. It's a book that's been translated also in Italian. It's what we do unconsciously and why we do it. Moreover, this theory should be coherent with the theory of natural selection as put forward by contemporary evolutionary theorists. Well, this is too ambitious, of course, because Bowlby theory is a middle-level evolutionary theory, middle level. This is too much, it's too general, probably, and so as just to say this. The data on child development provided by the infant research, I don't have time to focus on this, but this is more complicated. Bowlby's attachment theory represents one of the first and best attempts to construct an evolutionary-based and empirically validated theory on personality development. In fact, this was his aim, but he didn't really realize this. He didn't achieve it. That may explain important aspects of psychological relational functioning of human beings. Bowlby described the therapist's task in 5 points. When with Francesco we are lecturing in training schools, psychotherapy training schools, psychodynamically oriented, and we show this list. They laugh at this. The therapist is to provide a patient with a secure base from which she can explore the painful aspects of his life, so that's metaphorically exploring, as to encourage the patient to consider how he relates to important others, encourages the patient to explore the relationship between himself and the therapist, encourages the patient to consider how his feelings, perceptions, expectations, and actions may be the results of his childhood and adolescence experiences. Helps the patient to consider how his models of self and others derive either from past painful experiences or from confusing messages received from parents. This is particularly